Beautiful harmony, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for coming. Thank you so much for another privilege to learn, to jump into this world of Torah, which is the best medicine in the world. Thank you to my wife for making the house so perfect as always. A place that's suitable to just fly. So first of all, I want to do tonight's learning. The Refuah Shlema of a dear friend of mine, Zalman Tzvi ben Sima, many Refuah Shlema, and for Natan Daniel ben Malka, Michal Moshe Ze'eb ben Yehudit, Shoshana Ressa bas Ahuva, Alter Baruch ben Sarah, Benjamin Nachman Mordechai ben Ilana, and all other Cholim Be'ezrat Hashem Shev Refuah Shlema, and also we continue to learn Leilui Nishmas, the Chazan, Eliezer ben Eliyahu Aryeh, and Yitzchak ben Avram and Miriam bat Zechariah ben Avram and Miriam bat Avraham. I wanna remind ourselves something very important before we jump into tonight's learning. And it's kind of a general, it's a very general word, very general statement, but it's something really, really important. Why do we keep on learning the Parshas? Well, we keep on learning the Parsha every single week because we want to fix our souls. We're just trying to get it together. We're trying to fix our own neshamas. And each parsha, the depths of each parsha, offer another way to just fix our neshamas, to understand what we're doing here, to be involved with really fulfilling our mission in life. It's not just what does God want me to do, but it's also what do I feel I need to actually fix? Not just like what role I have to play in the world, but what attribute do I have to work on more than any other attribute? So really, in the parsha, in each parsha, when we learn the secrets of each parsha, something else jumps out every week, another point that it's very important to focus on. So I just want to remind us that and give us a bracha that the words that are really telling us what we're supposed to do in this world jump out at us in the parsha. Whenever we learn, it just jumps out of us. Not just that, we can learn davar mitoch davar. Not just that we learn, oh, this alludes to that alludes to that, that's a remez for that, that's a sign for this, that's a sign for this. But that they literally, the words themselves, go right into us and remind us, oh yeah, I'm learning the parsha, not because that's the right thing to do, but because of one reason. I want to hear from Hashem how to fix my own neshama. Now that's really the avoda that we do during Sfirat HaOmer as well. Every single night, we're doing another fixing of another midah, of another attribute. Now this week is a really, really strong week. Today was one of the strongest Sfirot in Sfirat HaOmer. And that was Yesod Sheba Yesod, the foundation of the foundation. Thousands went this morning. You were there, David?
Yeah.
Crazy. To Kever Yosef HaTzadik, Midah Yesod in Shechem. There's a lot to say about the Midah of Yesod Sheba Yesod. And we didn't bench Sfira, so it's still Yesod Sheba Yesod, even though tonight's, we're kind of ending off the week of Yesod, and then tomorrow night's the last week of Sfirat HaOmer. It's incredible. Wow. So I just want to mention, next week, Monday night, be the night before Shavuos, right? Because Shavuos is Tuesday night, it was special. The shir will be a hachana, the guide, Sheba guide, as much as we can, a very holy and strong guide to prepare yourselves to receive the Torah the following night. So that's next week, okay? But the week of Yesod, and especially the Sfira of Yesod Sheba Yesod, is one of the most monumental Sfirot that we have to work on during Sfirat HaOmer. Now just for a second I wanted to talk about this. Imagine what any foundation, think of anything in the world. Rabbi Shlomo says that when a tree has a strong foundation, when the roots are rooted in very deep into its makor, into its foundation, listen to this, the wind can come and blow the branches and the leaves to any direction. And sometimes the leaves and the branches can go to the left, and sometimes to the right, and sometimes back and forth. But if you have a solid yesod, then it never detaches from its root. So the tzaddikim speak about this, that this day, and we're in the last few minutes of it right now, this world, there's a lot of crazy winds blowing all the time. A lot of meshuganas, a lot of wacky theories, a lot of wacky websites, and a lot of wacky people who seem to be very normal looking that are saying some very wacky stuff about the state of Israel and Jewish people and the validity of the Torah and the Torah coming down from Shamayim, or Chas v'Shalom, people saying that it didn't come down from Shamayim. Do you know what Rabbi Shlomo's whole life was? Giving Yidden a connection and a chance to be connected to their roots, to their Yesod, so that they can deal with every single wind that's going to come and blow them one way or another. You see, it's one way, Rabbi Shlomo said there's two ways to live in the world. One is that I say there's no world. The world doesn't exist, just the Torah. And I can't have any interaction and any connection to anything that might be a little bit different than what? Than just the way I learn Torah. So there's no world, but we live in the world. But the way is, like we learned last week, how do you take the infinite and put it into the finite? How do you take this inyan of having a yesod, having a foundation, which means you're connected to the infinity of the Torah, and how do I put that in a very finite olam hazeh world? So we should be blessed that the learning that we're doing together with, accompanied with the davening that we're doing, creates a yesod sheba yesod, a foundation within the foundation from all the crazy winds that are blowing our way, that are blowing us from side to side, from left to right. We should just have such a foundation in our Yiddishkeit that certain things we should strive hard to figure out what the MS is. Always. Like the big picture MS, like that big, whatever that big jackpot is of what's going to strike, what's going to make that clock, just mamish, bring the great day to come. That everyone has to do. But then there's a place of when you find MS, when you're in the world of Torah, and Shabbos is Shabbos. And Eretz Yisrael is Eretz Yisrael. And Yerushalayim is Yerushalayim. That's a yesod, that's a foundation. Rabbi Shlomo was asked over and over again, what are you biggest on? What are you the most, what do you try to do the most with the people that come and interact with you? And he said two things. Shabbos and Yerushalayim. If they could connect the Shabbos and Yerushalayim, you're good. Everything else, you could afford to struggle. But if you're struggling with Shabbos, and you're struggling with the concept of Yerushalayim Mamish being the home of Am Yisrael and the future place of the third Beis HaMikdash, if you're not sure about those two things, everything else is kind of shaky. So everything we should do, Be'ezrat Hashem, for these last 8 days, towards Shavuot should strengthen our Yesod Sheba Yesod, should strengthen the foundations. And in every relationship you need a strengthening of each Yesod Sheba Yesod. I've seen marriages that, because the foundation wasn't exactly rooted, not that people were going crazy, but the foundation, certain aspect of the foundation of it wasn't rooted, a little wind came and blew the branches and the leaves completely off the tree. Not that it blew it a little bit to the side, but that it completely blew it off the tree. It's so easy when there's no yesod, when there's no foundation. So it should be as good, Rabbi Yosef Atzadik and all the tzaddikim, that we should be so strong in this area. So a way, like we said, if we have a chance to... Mida, he's the tzaddik. Who's known as the tzaddik? Out of all the avot, Avram is Avinu, Yitzchak Avinu, Yaakov Avinu, Moshe, Rabbeinu, Aaron, HaKohen, Yosef, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. That's the concept, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. The tzaddik is the foundation, the rock of the world, on which the world is nishan, that the world is leaning, it balances itself, it receives its sustenance when it has a solid foundation to lean on. That's the concept of a tzaddik yesod olam. And Yosef HaTzadik is known as the tzaddik, Yosef HaTzadik, because he's yesod, he's foundation. Now, if it was a men's shir, we'd go much deeper into your question, but it's not. Okay? Okay. So, that wasn't to confuse anybody in here.
No, I'm curious.
Yeah.
I'll tell you later.
Yeah, okay. All right, so we have this beautiful, beautiful, longest parsha of the Torah, by the way, Parshat Naso. Anyone want to know how many psukim, Parshat Naso? Scott, you know this kind of wacky number stuff, no? No. I believe it's 172. 172 psukim. It's the longest parsha in the Torah. Parshat Naso, the second one in Bamidbar, the second parsha in Bamidbar. And the parsha mainly deals with Levim, Levites. So I want to just, I want you all to hold on tight tonight, because we're going to be doing a big circle throughout the whole Torah. So you have to choose your sus on the merry-go-round. You have to choose your horse on the merry-go-round. You have to hold on to that pole for dear life. Because again, okay, but not for dear life, because we have a yesod, we have a foundation, so we're not going to go anywhere, right? We'll just keep on going round and round. And but hopefully each time you go around, you realize it's we might be in the same. You do elevate each time you go around, not just round and round in circles. But the Leviim play an incredible, incredible role. Just the pshat of the pasuk, when God says to Moshe Rabbeinu, "Kach et ha-Leviim mitoch bnei Yisrael." The Levites are taken from amongst Am Yisrael. Now, not all of us are Levim. I come from Levi, Kohanim come from Levim. But in order, like we said in the beginning, to fix our own neshamas, we need to understand what the Levim were all about. Mamish for our own neshamas. That pasuk alone, Kach et ha-Leviim mitoch b'nei Yisrael, take the Levites from amongst Am Yisrael, sheds a lot of light on the whole matter. But this is something very fun that I saw years ago. Let me see if I wrote it down. To those of you who are listening online, you should come to Shir because you'll see what I'm talking about. I don't know what to tell you. Maybe for Web Yeshiva, I'll try to do this. Can you see this, students? Take a snapshot or whatever you have to do. Okay. Remember we were learning a few weeks ago about Naso et Rosh, Se'u et Rosh. You take the word Rosh, you lift it up by each letter in the alphabet, and it becomes Shabbos, right? So the same Rebbe, as the din of a Rebbe, did something amazing to show you how deep the Torah is. The word, what the pasuk was, Kach et ha-Leviim, take the Levim, mitoch, from within Bnei Yisrael, mitoch Yisrael. So he took the word Yisrael, and he spelled out each letter. Yisrael. How do you spell the letter Yud in the Hebrew alphabet? What letters do you have to spell it out with?
Yud Vav
Yud Vav Daled. Sin. You see, right? You see right here. When you look at the middle letter of each letter which forms the word Yisrael, mamish, from within the word Yisrael, God's name itself spells out Leviim. Kachet Leviim mitoch b'nei Yisrael. The Leviim mamish are within Yisrael. Do you see this? This is mind-blowing. The Levites, it's not just like you look at these things, it's not like, wow, it worked out so cool. It doesn't work out cool. This is not a crazy coincidence. The Leviim are mamish mitoch b'nei Yisrael. They're from within the insides of Am Yisrael. What's so deep about the Leviim? So first of all, we know, for me, whenever I think of a Levi, I think of one thing. That guy that washes my hands. No. I think, when I think of a Levi, I just think of what the voice of the Levi made me feel when I brought a korban in the Beis HaMikdash. And Chazal teach us that the singing of the Leviim was mamish part of the chiyuv of the way that we would bring a korban, a sacrifice. The Levites had to sing while we were bringing the korban. Why? Because the Levi's voice would crack a hole in our heart of sincere repentance and sincere tshuva. Yeah, I brought a korban. I know I did the wrong thing, but when I heard the Levi's sing, I really want to bring a korban for the right reasons. So first of all, just thinking of that and imagining, like Behashev Kohanim la'avodatam u'leviim le'shiram u'lezimran, the Levites will go back to their shira v'zimra. Just imagining what that voice was like is enough for me to last forever. My brother, when I spoke to him, Erev Yantiv, Erev Pesach, told me a great vort, and I said it at every concert of a Pesach. The middle matzah is the matzah that we break, right? From the three matzahs, the middle matzah is the one that we crack open for the afikoman, right? So, what is, the three matzahs, everybody knows, is Kohen, Levi, Yisrael. Can I get the three matzahs? Which one do we break? We break Levi. Why? Because only Levi knew how to break someone's heart open. The Levi has this really beautiful way of knowing how to touch on those chords that our neshamas are waiting to be cracked open over. Shalom Aleichem. The Levi knows exactly on what chords to. So, my brother said this vort in the name of I think it was the Pittsburgher Rebbe. I'm not sure. I think it was the Pittsburgher Rebbe. When I first heard that name, I was laughing because I'm used to like Radomsk, the Slonimer, the Rizhiner, and the Pittsburgher. Like, my God, the Pittsburgher. We're in Slonim and Rizhin and Boyan and Mozhitz, the Pittsburgher Rebbe. But apparently the Pittsburgher Rebbe said this. So anyway, the Levi has that. He knows that his tafkid in this world is to just sing his heart out, because he knows how to touch that place in Anashamas It's like we're waiting, like, look, we think we're shalem, just sing one nigun, we'll crack open in a second. Yachatz. Just crack it open. And remember, the Maggid of Kuznets says that if you don't understand Yachatz, the cracking, the cutting of that, breaking that middle matzah, the matzah of Levi, you don't understand anything. So again, Kachet HaLevi'im mitoch Bnei Yisrael, the Levi comes from within Bnei Yisrael, like we saw literally on this note. Chaim, you got to see this Gewalt. I'm just going to look at it. Because it says Kachet HaLevi'im mitoch Bnei Yisrael. Spell out Yisrael. Yud, the middle is Levim. When you write it out. So Barry, you could show him. It's Gewalt. That's the din of a Rebbe says this. It's an unbelievable thing. So why do the Levim have such access to Am Yisrael's hearts? This is so, so beautiful. This is something that I learned a little while ago in the name of Reb Naso of Breslover, but it really came to life when you look at the pshat in the psukim. That's what I wanted to talk about tonight. You know, in this world we said we're here to fix our neshamas. Whether we like it or not, this world was not meant to be restful and a peaceful place. I hate to break it to anybody. I don't know. No, I don't know. I think I go to sleep and wake up in denial that it is supposed to be a peaceful and restful place. It's not. But it doesn't mean that there's something wrong. This world is for everyone to go out and choose what they're fighting for and when they choose to fight over what they choose to fight over. Every day, there's a choice that each of us have. Am I going to battle that which I feel is confronting me, or am I preemptive striking? Parshat. Reb Naso says that the tachlis of a person in this world is to be able to choose, we spoke about this, is to be able to take his determination and choose with all the strength in the world to get his life together regardless of any immediate emergency that's taking place in his life. When do we usually get our hearts, like a blood pressure checked, or we hear someone has a heart attack? Oh, then we go and chas v'chalila do tests. We hear that person suffering for something. We saw an accident. Oh, that's what lights up the nura, the light bulb in my head. Reb Naso says that a person can literally reach worlds of shleimus when he doesn't wait for an emergency to take place in order to celebrate his bchira chovshis, his free will, and go out there and do what needs to be done. I mean, I saw it beautifully. I grew up, the first time I saw this actually happen was, I was in a certain school, without mentioning names, I was in a certain school when I was younger, and in the middle of being in the school, the Rosh Yeshiva left in the middle. No one understood why. He was a successful Rosh Yeshiva, young and very energetic, and everyone loved him, and he just left. And then, a few years later, the whole yeshiva crumbled. There was some great legal stuff, money stuff, other weird stuff, and my yeshiva, Baruch Hashem, fell to the ground. I say Baruch Hashem because it was a pretty mamish horrible place, and it Yisnari ma'afar kumi. Then it got up again, and it started again from fresh. But the Rav, we later realized, we understood. He said, "Look, he sees that there's so many things here that don't smell so good." So he doesn't jump ship, but he said to himself, "Maybe this is a simon that I need to go and work on myself right now, very strong in certain areas," which he did, and no one understood why he did what he did. But he took off from everything. And he just started working on himself because he said, I'm not waiting for everything to crumble. I want to look at tachlis of my life right now. That's not the best example, but it's the first time I saw that example in my life. But let's do this right now, this exercise. I want you to imagine, chas v'shalom, the unfortunate. The unfortunate possibility which might happen, God knows, chas v'chalila, we shouldn't think about it too much. And then think about what that would cause you to do if you heard about a certain tragedy that would happen. Or think of it in your own life when you heard of someone that something bad happened to them, which made you get up and wake up and say, I got to get my life together. Are you able to make that decision of going inside, pnima, deep inside, not because someone's coming to attack you, not because something bad is actually happening, but because you choose to preemptive strike that nikuda. Am I making any sense? So Reb Nosson says, you want to be an emes yid, a real emes yid? This is a very strong nekuda. This is a really strong point. And the Slonomer Gewalt, he brings this point home, and he says this was the Leviim. Why? Makashur. Listen to this. This is mind blowing. Really open up your hearts very strong. This is, if you could take this in, we'll understand why this whole parsha with the Leviim, what's going on with the Leviim all the time. These also Bamidbar, also here, there's something about the Levites. So we said that everyone has to fight. But when the Torah speaks about going out to war, when it comes to Klal Yisrael, how does the Torah speak about it? Mi ben, whatever, shana v'mala, kol yotzei tzava b'Yisrael. Anyone, that's what's yotzei tzava? Huh?
Exempt from them?
No, not in this context.
Those who are going to the army.
Those who are going out and fighting the milchemet, like what the Shlomo calls a milchemet hayetzer. They're going out and they're fighting it because they see, my God, the Yetzer Hara is just killing me, right? So when they see, oh my gosh, I'm having a real fight in this world, I'm going to call yotzei tzava, I'm going to be a gibor, and I'm going to go out and strike, right? Now think of it like this. I hate to say it, but when do we usually take care of terrorists?
After a terror attack.
What are the Leviim? What's the lashon of the Torah when the Torah talks about the Levi going out to fight? It says by the Levi, kol haba latzava. Not kol yotzei latzava, someone that's going out to fight the war. Someone that's choosing lavo pnima, to go inside. To not wait till he has to go out, but to go inside himself and say, wow, I could see how anything could erupt in a second. I'm not going to wait. The Levi is in touch with mamish, the inside of Am Yisrael. Kachet HaLeviim mitoch b'nei Yisrael. The Levi is in touch with inside. So the Slonomer and really Reb Nosson says, this is what the Levi was all about. But it's for you and I today. Maybe we're not Leviim. But what are those things that we only do when we're alarmed by something else or seeing it by somebody else? And if we could attack one of those things before we're forced to attack it, that's when you really bring more chayus, more chayut, how would you say? Vitality, life itself to your own life. You see, when you're saved or when you go out and fight something because something bad happened, then all you're doing is you're just making sure you're not dead. What about making sure you're utmost alive? It's two different stories. Making sure I'm not dead versus what? Making sure I am so alive. The Levi knows what that's about. With Am Yisrael, everyone goes to war. Kol yotzei tzava, that's one thing. Kol haba latzava. But someone that, like lavo pnima el kodesh, the Levi goes inside and he doesn't wait for something bad to happen. He makes sure he takes care of business beforehand. There are certain examples throughout the Torah that we could see how the Levi was saved because of just all this work they used to do on themselves. And the best example is, who didn't sin with the golden calf? The Leviim. They did not sin with Chet HaEgel, correct? Where did this come from? It's because they didn't have to, because what we started off tonight, Yesod Sheba Yesod, their Yesod was so inside. When you choose to work on those things in life before they come and attack you, what are you really doing? Which connects to the beginning of this year. You're strengthening your foundation, which means that you can't, no matter what wind comes anywhere, you can't be moved. Let's look at it for a second in a marriage, in a relationship, because I believe whether you're married or not married yet, or you've been married for 30 years or 10 years, it's irrelevant. I think every single Torah today that we learn has to be learned on two levels, besides just the pshat. Where do I see this with my spouse? And where do I see this with my child? Has to be. I think that's the Torah of today. Maybe once upon a time, I could learn a deep teaching and I could be like, wow, where does my neshama fly with this or not? But today, we all know we can experience the highest highs in shul, thinking that we're mamish. Moshe Rabbeinu's vice principal, right, in the school of Yidden, right? He's the principal. Flying, Keser Yitnu Lecha, Hashem Alekeinu. That's happened to me. I've been flying, thinking, oh my God, it can't be any higher. And I come home, and it's like, something will happen. I'm like, uh-oh, it's not matching. Who am I? Which person am I? Were you thinking of Shalom Bayis when you were flying? Keser Yitnu Lecha, Hashem Alekeinu. So every teaching we're doing today, we're bringing home, we're bringing to the heart of the home, husband and wife, parents and children. Think of this right now for a second with the parents and children and with the home, husband and wife. What are those things that I'm very cool with not dealing with until it happens? Chas v'sholem. That's mamish the warning. Both with the chinuch of my children. Oh, when we get there, I'll deal with that. Or with husband and wife, it's even much more personal and private, but it could shake the roots, the core of a marriage, if the yesod is not there. So far, first of all, there's going to be a lot of brachas tonight, because these Leviim brought out, and this is the Parsha Birkas Kohanim too. Like in this Parsha you have Birkas Kohanim, so there's a lot of brachas that to come out. Hashem should have rachmanis on us and bless us to look at life in such a healthy way, that we choose lavo pnima, kol habala tzava. We choose to be with the Levim, preemptive strikes of all those things, and after there should be a zgula for Am Yisrael to not stupidly enough only wait for Jewish blood to chas v'sholem be spilled, and only then go in and cause a little bit of damage. That's first of all. Now the most beautiful thing about this inyan of the Levi is that the Levim themselves were split up into 3 families, which is what we're going to be dealing with now. And it really ties into the beginning, and it'll tie into the end too, and we're going to start going now through the Torah. Who are the 3 families in the family of Levi? Kehat, Gershon, and Merari. Now for our sake, I'm going to pull a little bit of a Tanya on us. Okay? A little bit Lubavitch, just terminology-wise. These 3 groupings, Bnei Kehat, Bnei Gershon, and Bnei Merari. The Slonimer helps us with this a little bit, and this is what we're going to be doing now, is very strong Ishbitz, Reb Leibele Eger, all that school of thought. So I really want you to know something very, very, very strong. These 3 groups for now, let's just divide them. Bnei Kehat, what was their job? Does anyone know? The sons of Kehat? Anybody know? It says the Kehat were the ones that carried the Aron. They were Nosei HaAron, the ones who carried the ark. Bnei Gershon, does anyone know what their job was? It's not important right now. Bnei Merari, anyone know?
Like the menorah and the shulchan.
Yeah. So first of all, Bnei Kehat, this is very important. And we learned this a few years ago. Bnei Kehat were the tzaddikim. They were so high. How do we know they were so high? So Rabbi Shlomo says, and the tzaddikim will say this, the Chazal say, Ha'aron noseh et nosav. Do you remember this? This is very beautiful.
Okay.
They were carrying the Aron Kodesh, but did you know how heavy the Aron was? First of all, what was inside the ark that they were carrying?
Luchot
Luchos and Shivei Luchos. Right, there's machlokes, but let's just say, Tzitzena Saman. Let's just say Luchos v'Shivei Luchos. Let's just say the tablets and the broken tablets. Do you know how heavy the tablets were? Do you know what the Midrash says? How heavy the tablets were? The Luchot HaBrit were? So there's different days. Rabbi Shlomo used to talk about it. Some say it was 100 ton. Some say 1,000 ton. Some say 10,000 ton. Come on. Bnei Kehat is carrying the Luchot, the Aron. Before any of us started choosing to keep Shabbos, how heavy did Shabbos weigh when we looked at it and said, I can't do any of that and I'm supposed to live? Yiddishkeit, Taras HaMishpacha, Shmiras Einayim, anything in Kedusha, anything that has to do with holiness. Okay, what about marriage? Come on, how heavy is marriage, right, from there? But when you're in it, and your mom is trying as hard as you can to hold it b'kedusha, what ends up happening? It holds you. Rabbi Shlomo always said, the question isn't, are you keeping Shabbos? The question is, do you feel that Shabbos is keeping you? And he said, that's what's considered someone who truly keeps Shabbos, keeps Torah and mitzvahs. Not, are you doing good? Checklist Yiddishkeit, are you keeping the Torah? Have you kept Shabbos? That's not what it's about. Is Shabbos keeping you? Do you hear the difference? Like, once you taste real Shabbos, it's not like, wow, I can't wait to keep it again. It's like, how was I living without it? I'm so excited for this to keep me alive the rest of my life. Talmud Torah. Even if you learn every single morning you're learning, but every single morning it's like, okay, this is what a Ben Torah should be doing. It's not keeping you. You're trying to keep the Torah you're learning. When does it become something that's keeping you alive? When that whole equation falls to the garbage, when you're not even thinking like that anymore. When that terminology is foreign to you, when it has nothing to do with the way you normally think, believe, or breathe, when it's something completely different. And so forth, we can go with every example in the Torah. But for right now, Bnei Kehas, they were able to hold and carry the Ark of the Covenant with the tablets inside because they were on such a high level that it really was keeping them. It kept them alive. So that's the highest. Bnei Gershon is kind of in the middle, and we're going to be talking about Bnei Gershon right now. And Bnei Merari is like the lowest. Because what does even the word come from? Bnei Merari, the children of
bitterness.
Of bitterness. Who's Bnei Gershon? Because the Parsha opens up, Naso es Bnei Gershon. This is the family of Levites that's in the middle. They're not the highest like Kehat, but they're not the lowest like Merari, bitterness. Who's Gershon? Gershon is usually you and I. Usually, Bnei Gershon is where people can find themselves much more than other places. Bnei Kehat, Alavai, we could all say that it's clear to us from the morning we wake up to the second we go to sleep, it's not me that's keeping the Torah, it's the Torah that's keeping me. That's beautiful. I hope that happens to all of us. But Amen, yeah, you should be screaming Amen to that one, right? But until that happens, let's go with this, what we did before. The tzaddikim is Kehat, Gershon's in the middle, Merari is just the bitter ones. Who's Bnei Gershon? So Ishbitz has a field trip with this. Because what does Ishbitzer do? He's always taking pshat words and he's saying, well, what does the word exactly mean? What is Gershon? Who's Gershon? What does Gershon even mean? Gershon comes from the word legaresh, gerushim, meaning to the one who is megurash, driven out. Years ago we learned this amazing Torah. Let's look now at the pshat Hebrew of the first pasuk of our parsha. Naso et rosh bnei Gershon. Naso et rosh, lift up the heads of those who feel like they're driven out. You hear how deep this is? Naso et rosh bnei Gershon. Lift up the heads of those people who feel like they were in Gan Eden, but they were thrown out of there. Now, has anyone ever felt that they've been thrown out of a world of Kedusha? They were in it, but they either got themselves kicked out or someone else kicked them out of this beautiful world of peace and serenity and holiness. Well, we know something very beautiful. Each of our neshamas was rooted, now we're just going to do basic psychology to understand ourselves. Let's just begin to understand ourselves and why we feel many of the feelings that we feel. You ever feel like you're pushed away from holiness, whether it was your choice or not? Just pushed away. Happens every day. All the time. The Zohar HaKadosh says that each of our souls were rooted in Adam Harishon, in man. So if you look at man's life, you look through all of his life and look at everything that happened to him, and most likely when you look deep, every person in the world can find themselves regarding one of the things that happened to Adam Harishon. One of the things he was told, one of the things he said, one of the things he saw, one of the things he felt. If you look at Adam Harishon, and how long does he appear in the Torah? Not too long. But there's enough going on in his life that's documented in the Torah for each of us to find ourselves. For instance, what happens to him after he sins? What does the Torah say where he is? In what state of mind? What is he in the middle of doing?
Hiding.
He's hiding. Anyone ever hide after they're embarrassed about something? This is Adam Harishon. It's not like we didn't make this stuff up. Anyone ever blame anybody else when they did something wrong? Where does this come from? But this nekuda of Gershon, of being driven out, is found by Adam Harishon. Vaigaresh, it says, after he sinned, it says that God drove him out of Gan Eden. That's the word. That God, I think the pasuk is, Vaigaresh Hashem Elokim es Adam min hagan, right? Is that the pasuk? Something like that. This word of being driven out, being divorced, is the wording that's used by Adam Harishon. When next do we see the word of legaresh in the Torah? Huh? Before that.
With Girosh Vishmael.
Before that. That's the same thing.
Right.
Before that. Right after Adam. Cain. Hein gerashta el sihayon, right? Cain looks at God after he did what he did to Hevel, and he's like, "Oh my God, you just drove me out of here today. Girashtati, I'm driven out. You divorced me." And then we have Garish Nais ben Ha'ama, when Sarah tells Avram to drive him out, drive him away. David HaMelech over and over again with Girish. Needless to say, each of us, we're Bnei Merari, Bnei Gershon, because at a certain point in our lives, we were thrown out of whatever it was that was working really, really good for us. When things were working good for us, I wasn't so conscious that it was God that was making sure that it was good for me. But the second that I was thrown out, then I definitely pointed that finger right away and said, how could you do this to me? But when things were good, I didn't. Now, a person can only be thrown out of a place which he was in. I can't throw you out of a place which you were never in. You can only be driven out of a place if you were there once. Like, let me explain this differently. It's a Torah I say every year for my dear friend Moshe Geller. And it's a Torah for the books. It's an amazing thing. Jack liked this one. This is the first one I ever learned with him. It says, Al tashnicheni milfanecha v'ruach kodesh al tikach mimenu. We say this, David HaMelech says, don't throw me away from before you. David, this is for you, listen to this. And then we say, V'ruach kodesh al tikach mimeni. And Ribono Shel Olam, don't take away from me your Ruach HaKodesh. You know what you're basically saying? What's another way of saying, don't take away from me Ruach HaKodesh?
I have Ruach HaKodesh.
I have Ruach HaKodesh. Because you can't take something away from me if I don't have it. You can't be driven out of paradise unless you were once in paradise. I'll say it even deeper. I'll say it even much deeper. I hope. When a person has a yesod, they can be thrown out 1,000,000 times, but they'll know what it means to come back home. They'll know what home is once they come back home because they were once there. For instance, a person that goes off again, however you want to mefarish, however you want to translate the statement off the derech, a person that checks out and he's kind of done with whatever life is from religious world has been for him, and he's done. When he comes back, he won't be as confused as he was before, because He had a smell once of home. Maybe it was rotten, but he knows what home was. Now another person can never tasted Shabbos before in his life. Ever. When he comes back, his thing is a whole new bria. It's something completely new. Now, you're thinking that I'm talking in terms of someone that grew up from or not from. I'm not talking in those terms. That's Golisdik terms. That's not what I'm talking about. In our heart of hearts, because each of us is kosher to Adam HaRishon, I guarantee you that if you look deep into your life, maybe the child in you, usually it's the child in you, each of us was once in paradise. And at a certain point, each of us was thrown out of paradise. And all we're busy doing in this world is figuring out how to get from Bnei Gershon to Bnei Kehas.
You can also say, like, Rav Aviner used to say, like, in the time of the Gerush from Gush Katif, that Gerush is also the same letters of Gesher. It's to take Gershon and just to change the letters. Right now we're at Gershon of Gimel Reishin, and our job is to change it in this world to Gimel Shin Reish, to build a bridge to get farther.
No, but when I once told that Torah to someone that was thrown out of his house, he wanted to kill me.
All right.
No, I hear what you're saying, but it's not,
It's not easy,
it's
but
yeah.
to switch
It's
to Kehat
it's the ultimate.
is,
It's a gesher up
is
there.
sababa,
No
but
doubt.
you can always to take also, I think, the thing itself, and then you can change it itself. It's not necessarily to switch to something else. It's to change the essence itself.
No. In the moment, though, it's like telling someone that their mother was chas v'shalom killed in Auschwitz. In the schus of the 6 million, we got Eretz Yisrael. Like, you don't say that to a survivor. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't go. But I hear what you're saying. If everything is obviously this gesher. Now, I've always wondered after learning this Torah is like, what would Bnei Gershon feel when they looked at Bnei Kehas? These are my brothers. These are my cousins. It's all family in the Levium, right? And they'd look at them and be like, wow. They have it. They have it together. They're flying. Torah's carrying them. They're good. They're fine. Me? Look at me. I once kept Shabbos. Shabbos once kept me, and I lost it. One time I was flying, learning Rabbi Nachman day and night. I lost it. There was a time I was with my heart. My heart was open to people. There was a time when I would walk into a shul. I really didn't judge. What happened to me? Who did I become? So what does the Torah begin with this Shabbos telling us? Naso et Rosh Bnei Gershon. Lift up the head of those who feel that they were driven out of paradise. What does it mean to lift up your head out of thinking that God has it in for you? He's a tease. He showed you what beauty and love was. He showed you how good life could be once. He gave you paradise. He gave you moments of feeling that everything was perfect and everything was under control, and then He took it away from you. How do you lift your head out of that perception of life? What do you guys think? I'm not going to give you an answer. That would be like... That would be the most if I gave you an answer to that question right now, I don't care if you hate me, but that's a shallow. That's not real. We're not here for a question. We're not here. I'm going to give you like a good shear. I'm going to set up a really good question, and then I'm going to give you a really good answer. Go home and use it. We're done with that. So, if it ever happened, I want you to think about this. How do you lift up someone's head from the perception that God took away something beautiful from their life?
Didn't you say Gershon carried the menorah?
Well, I heard a machlokas about this. I'm not sure. I heard a machlokas regarding Kehat and Merari and Gershon. Everything that they. All I know is about Kehat that they were carrying the Aron.
If I remember, Gershon were the Kodesh, Kehat were Kodesh Kodashim, and Merari were like outside. was the Mishkan.
Right.
So if that is, you could say that Gershon who are carrying the menorah, right, which was the Mekora Or, that was the Ora Ganuz that comes down and that's what shines, but it's Ora Ganuz. So that was Dafka Nesoet Rosh Bnei Gershon. Their heads are down right now, they feel Megorashim, and it's you need to lift your head up to see that you do have this Ora Ganuz, that the light still is there. That the Makor of the Or, that was the whole idea of Naso Rosh Bnei Gershon, of look up and still see where you still do have the place for the light, that you still do have the Kli.
So I'm going to push you to exercise something that you should never, chas v'shalom, have to taste, especially since you're not even married yet, but imagine you had a wife and kids and that whole thing fell apart. Now you're Gershon. You had a Shabbos table, you don't have it anymore.
I never said it's easy.
No, I know. I'm just, if anyone's going to dish out the recipe to lifting your head out of the gutter after thinking God took something away from you, then you have to be open to not to see it tachlis in your life.
Right.
That's what we're here for. So now, that guy's sitting Friday night alone. Naso es Rosh Bnei Gershon. What are you telling them?
To look at the kelim that he did build, what he did learn, what his neshama must have had to go through in this world.
Yeah, but he's always going to be a Gershon. He's never going to change to a Kahan.
Well, not never.
That's the
Never.
That's the challenge of that.
Well, not never. It would stink if it's like, hey, this happens to you, and now,
Kehat,
you're waiting for nothing. I don't know.
Listen, Kehat and Gershon were all one at one point. They were Levi. Only at some point later it was switched into all three, meaning that they all are connected as one, that Gershon will become Kehat, that it's just three different steps, possibly. And it just symbolizes the three steps we have in this realm, that it's not necessarily in the Torah. Okay, so you have technically you do have the lineage of Gershon, Kehat, and Merari, but it's actually just steps in your life. That people can start as Merari, but they can very easily become Gershon. It's not necessarily...
Not if you're Lubavitch.
Hey, you have for the Beinonim, whatever, you have Sefer Beinonim.
It's not so pashut becoming a Beinoni either.
It's not easy at all.
No.
But no, you have... Okay, so you have...
No, well, one second. What did Adam do? What did Adam do?
It took him 130 years to get his thing together, no?
Could be, but you know what? Each day of creation could have been 130,000 years, so time is irrelevant. But forget time for a second. How did he deal with being thrown out of the Garden of Eden?
He didn't fight his way back into Gan Eden. He said, okay, now I'm not in Gan Eden, I'll try whatever I can do in this world.
Let's build on this. If we said before that everything we went through is rooted in Adam HaRishon, so the act of being thrown out, okay, it makes sense. It was Adam HaRishon. That much we could relate to, that he was also thrown out of the Garden of Eden. How did he lift his head up from that? Is that he didn't for 1 second begin comparing where he is now to where he was. That never started. In fact, what's one of the first things Adam Rishon did once he was thrown out of Garden of Eden? I don't know if that is that before or after. He was in the garden. But he names her after. Could be you're right. I'm not sure right now. Could be you're right. But it could be you're right. But let's look at an act that he does. What's the first thing we know that Adam Rishon does?
Because he said to Hashem, "Ha'isha Hashem asatali." That's like before he was thrown out.
Right. He blames her in the garden.
He calls her Isha.
Yeah. But he blames her in the garden. I'm saying he's thrown out now. By the way, I've seen people in paradise cursing each other out. You know what I mean? Paradise is not that you're automatically perfect. It's a place with potential of flying. But it's not about you. Everything's perfect in your life. Adam HaRishon, the first thing he does when he realizes what tshuva is and that it exists is that he starts singing the song of Shabbos. What Adam HaRishon starts singing, what tshuva is, and it's amazing that if he would have stayed in the Garden of Eden, he would have never known that there's a concept called tshuva. And we know that tshuva is kadma la'olam. The concept of tshuva and the process that a person goes through truly repenting, that even preceded the creation of the world, the concept of it. Because what is it about tshuva I can't learn when I'm in Garden of Eden? I only learn about tshuva once I'm out. You know, Rav Kook writes in his Hakdama Ta'oras HaTshuva, the Lights of Repentance, I'm just going to finish in a minute, he writes that tshuva is this concept that, you know, I can't sleep till I find out the score of the thunder and the spurs, right? He couldn't sleep until he understood the secrets of tshuva. He says he's driving him crazy inside. Tshuva is something you can't learn when everything is sweet. As much as we want to be like a Levi and go on work on everything before things fall apart, certain things, the only way to learn them is once you're kicked out. We would love to discover how great God is just by being a B'nai Kehas, carrying the Aron, the Aron's carrying me. I'm good with Shabbos, Shabbos is good to me. We would love that ideally. But you know when B'nai Gershom would look at B'nai Kehas, do you know what B'nai Kehas would look back at a Ben Gershom and say? He says, what do you think? That I understand and appreciate this Shabbos without feeling one time in my life also thrown out? Who do you think, because you don't see it right now, the pain that I'm going through, that I didn't have to go through pain as well? And when you meet real deep people, who you go to for inspiration, and they look like they have their acts together, once you start a real deep conversation, it's not long before they always say the following thing. Do you think I was always like this? Do you think everything was always like this? And the second they say that, you begin to feel like you have a chance. B'nai Gershon would look up to B'nai Kehas and say, like, you guys don't look like you were thrown out. Were you? Like, oh yeah. We were once thrown out of the Garden of Eden too. We once had things stripped away from us in our life too. Fell so low. But do you know what we discovered? The same thing that Adam HaRishon discovered when he was thrown out of the Garden of Eden. The concept of tshuva. Now, et chata'ai anochi maskir hayom. I want to mention to you, but in front of everyone, a stupid thing that I think has been happening in my life, which I'm pretty embarrassed about. But there's no better place to share embarrassing things than in your own living room, right? And on Daniel Sass's camera. And on 3 iPhones and an iPad and Web Yeshiva. So pretty personal. After Elul, there was one book I refused to put back into the Aron, and it's been on my night table. Because I said to myself after last Elul, I said, I'm not waiting to get my act together in Rosh Chodesh Elul this year. I'm keeping it by my night table. And I'm going to learn this all year long. What book was that? Rav Weinberger's Perush on Rav Kook's Oros HaTshuva. Why do I have to wait till Elul, till I start feeling the pressure to start getting it together? I might be that the only time that I opened it since Elul was when I felt a need to do tshuva. And yet it's sitting there next to my bed every night waiting for me, saying, you could just do it now. Do you want, or do you still need to feel like you're being thrown out? It's right here. It's right next to your head. It's right here. So Chaver, you know, we have those kind of Sfarim next to our beds all the time. Not literally, figuratively. But we have these moments all the time in our life. So are we going to be Mamish Breslovers, like Reb Nassan explains, that I'm choosing to focus on very alarming things in life before there's a siren? Or am I going to wait to be thrown out? All I could do is choose a preemptive strike. After that, what the Ribono Shlem decides to throw me out or not, that's not up to me. But one thing I do know, whether I do a preemptive strike like a Levi, or I call Yotzei Tzava, or I go out like the rest of Am Yisrael to war, there's one thing that I could never ever lose touch with. Tshuva. No matter what. No matter when, and no matter how. Tshuva is not a concept that should be discussed in Elul. In fact, the mitzvah of tshuva is in our parsha. You know that in each parsha, there's in the Shla, Kodesh, and in Sefer HaMitzvahs, it explains in each parsha which mitzvahs out of the 613 are found in the parsha. The mitzvah of doing tshuva is found in Parshat Naso. And it says that everything always connects to the first pasuk of the parsha. The first pasuk of the parsha says, Naso es rosh b'nei Gershon, bless you. Lift up the heads of those who feel like they were driven out. Why should a yid feel like he has a chance? Because what do you taste when you do tshuva? You would have never known unless you were a ben Gershon. So we see from the Levim how we could fix our whole lives. We see from Bnei Kehaz, Gershon, maybe one year we'll do Merari too. Maybe around Pesach time, Maror, we'll talk all about Bnei Merari and what they were all about. But for now, connecting to the Sphira which we came out of today, of Yesod Sheba Yesod, we should have this final jump towards Matan Torah. Should be this jump of Ribono Shel Olam. My goal is to always be a ben Kehas. When I say Naso v'Nishma, and I'm going to tell you, give me on, bring me your Torah, it's not because I'm such a hot shot that I know I could do everything, but it's because I can't imagine what my life would be like without Shabbos. I can't imagine what my life would be like without Shabbos keeping me. But you know what? And if chas v'shalom I lose touch with what's important, you gave me the mitzvah of tshuva, which is in our parsha. If I'm a ben Gershon, it doesn't matter what it is. But we should lift up our heads out of feeling like we were kicked out once and then the game is over. Chas v'chalila. Rabbi Shlomo says, in the name of the Ishbitzer, Adam Harishon's first sin, if we're started with Adam, we're going to end with Adam. And this again relates to everyone in this room. Adam Harishon's first sin, Rabbi Shlomo says, and it's in Even Shlomo and other places, is not that he ate a wrong apple, that he didn't listen to God. That's not the Avera. Rabbi Shlomo says we eat thousands of wrong apples every day. That's not what it's about. The Avera is that Adam Harishon thought that you eat one rotten apple, that the game is over. That is an Avera. That you think that you make a mistake and you're megurash. That thinking, that perception needs to be lifted. So Gevalt, Naso is Rosh B'nei Gershon, could be the tikkun for the first Avera that was in the Torah. Of thinking that you're out of the picture once you do one wrong mistake. So Ashreinu Matov Chelkeinu to look at our lives. We've eaten a number of wrong apples and we're still around, just like we learned last Shabbos. We're still here. En Yehush Ba'ilam Klal. No such thing, because we're still here. But we shouldn't have to eat too many more rotten apples in order to understand how much tshuva is essential for our life. One rotten apple done, the whole ball game's done. All right, Shekoyach everyone. Thank you for coming. Good Shabbos, good Sphira. We'll see you all next Monday night. Or at the Kotel this Wednesday night.